Here's a quick look into today's episode.
Leaders aren't born, they're chosen. You wake up every morning, you go look in the bathroom and you're like, yeah, I'm a leader in this organization. It's like saying you're good looking. That's not for you to say. That's not for any of us to say. It is for the people around us to say. Everything that you want to see in the most incredible people around you, like all those sparks, all those attributes, all those beautiful things, all these great human capacity that people are able to do, right? How do you pull that away from people? And that's when you start to see organizations say, man, that guy right there, that's a... Okay, so the Michelangelo effect. So if you've ever seen the statue of David and you've looked at a marble, so everything that we've talked about, like it's like you're coming into a new organization. You have a slab of marble in front of you. Michelangelo was able to do something that no other sculptor was able to do. He was actually able to look inside the marble and see what the marble needed for it to thrive, for it to become what his vision was, right? Because without a vision, people will perish. So as he looks at this slab of marble, he has this ability to look inside of it and say, that's the spark, that's what it needs.
Welcome to another episode of Teach Me to Fish, where our purpose is to help leaders better understand what drives people. In today's world, the core of recruiting and retaining talent revolves around leadership, and not just average leadership, but motivated, values-based, inspirational leadership. Our purpose is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories and stacking habits. Habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Before we go into this, if you want to know more about, Don, you go back and listen to episode number 40, where the title was Be a Collector of Good People and Find Your Tribe. We talk about his full story, how he grew up, the people he met in the Army, and you'll hear all that. We're going to skip past all that stuff for today's episode and just kind of get right into our conversation about leadership and great leaders. We talked a ton about it in that other episode, but this is kind of a continuation of not just that episode, but a bunch of the episodes that we've done where we talk about what makes good leaders great. So I just want to let's just let it rip, right?
Okay.
I don't want to belabor the point, quick hitter episode where we just talk about, a specific topic being great leadership. And when I thought about it a couple weeks ago and I started thinking about what makes a great leader, how do they make us feel? How do you become a great leader? How do you become start with being a good follower? I started thinking about all these different things, and I just wanted to kind of summarize, in a quick conversation, what is great leadership and how do they make us feel? How do they bring the best out of us? All those things, right? And so when I thought about who to do that with, I thought about doing it with you. I thought about doing it with, Don Castello, that would come in and have a conversation, somebody that could just kind of get my mind going in the right direction and see very similar things, leadership, but from a couple of different angles. What was the first thing that came to your mind when I said hey, let's have a conversation about leadership?
Oh, it was right off the bat. I jumped right back to a book that I read probably 4 or 5 years ago. It's called Lead Yourself First, written by Mike Irwin, right? He is the founder of Team Red, White, and Blue. The whole purpose of Lead Yourself First is having the understanding of, as you develop, as you become a leader, finding some solitude. But it hit me in the face is that understanding yourself and how you will impact an organization, right? So your leadership ends at the perception of your nose. And it was incredible to kind of understand that, look at it from that lens. Because I think anytime you meet a leader, he's going to jump into a job. What's the organization need? What does the organization need to thrive? And it's hey, how do you do that? You're the key that's going to open that door. You are the leadership key that is going to drive and move an organization. How do you do that?
Yeah.
And I thought about Albert Einstein's definition to success. And it says, strive not to be of success, but to be of value.
Yeah.
So when you look at value and how you understand yourself as a leader, it has 3 dimensions to it: your intrinsic worth, moral beliefs, and giving, right? So your intrinsic worth as a leader, when you wake up every single day, where do you get your purpose from? What makes you walk out of the door and say, hey, I'm going to live this day like it's my last one on this, or I'm going to give everything 110% and then some. Like I'm going to be all in with this organization. What do you need in your life that's going to actually move you to that? Because you create a ripple effect. Every day you come into work, every day you salute that flag at 6:30, you're standing in front of a formation or you're a subordinate leader, you are going to be the one. So where do you get your intrinsic worth? The next thing is your moral beliefs. Don't ever forget where you came from, right? Yeah, H2F is great. The spiritual pillar, it's in there. And I think once you apply your moral beliefs on the way you were raised, wherever you came from, to your ethical decision-making process, right? It's good because every leader has to ask himself a really hard question. When do you get to the point to where you're making bad decisions, right? Okay, what's your moral and ethical compass saying? How do you get there? And then the last and most incredible thing that all leaders should always do, giving, right? Giving. We should all wake up, plant the seeds, let the trees grow, and let the whole entire world live underneath its shade, Yeah. Good people do good things for other people. That's it. The end, That's it. Yeah.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about it is like, what makes a great leader? I think about like the people that in my life that have got the best out of me. They brought the best out of me. Sometimes it wasn't they brought the best out of me today, but it was like I learned something from them now, and then like a couple of years later, I realized that it was it brought the best out of me, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
The other thing that leaders, I thought great leaders make me feel is like they care about my family and my life a little bit more than just say the military or just the business. Is they care a little bit more about my family and about my life. And then the hard one that I think that's there to explain is like, sometimes we call it the it factor, or when someone's got the juice, and it's just that leader, there's something about them that's what makes them from like a good leader to a great leader. There's just something about them. I think sometimes you can see that a little younger, a little bit earlier in their life.
Absolutely.
We call it like potential, but when you can kind of see those things a little bit earlier in life, if that person has like that it factor, I think they want to. That's the way the great leaders make me feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anytime I've like really, I don't think it was only till a few months ago I've ever really been able just to step back and look at it like, what is that it factor? You get to see it, and the last 17 years, especially working here in Indo-Pac, gosh, do you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, do you see it? It's just incredible to work here. But I was like, how do you get there? What is that? What's that itch? Because this one's got something great. This one's got something awesome, right? I think two prime examples are the two brigade commanders that I've had in the last year, right? Mm-hmm. So Colonel White and then Colonel Lamborn. Very, both centrically different in the way they go about things, but both of them do things that very well, these two things that I've like started to break down every leader I come across. I think you're either relationships based or you're relationships based or you're results based. When I look at a results based leader, it's someone who can stand back and understand that leaders are responsible purely for the environment, not the results, right? Mm-hmm. It's stepping back and understanding that the people that you're in charge of, they're in charge of the results. I don't think there's a leader that exists on this planet that's ever going to be in charge of the results. We are ultimately in charge of the environment. Mm. You can take a good person off the street, put them into a bad environment, and they're going to fail, right?
Yeah.
If you take a bad person and put them into a good environment, they're going to start to thrive. They're going to start to be a contributing member to society, to your organization. They're really going to truly blossom, right? So it's just when you're results-based, those are the guys that are looking at, okay, it's like, I need data. I need these things to make these decisions, like the AI platform Maven. The boss loves it. Oh, Colonel Lamborn loves Maven. But it is just pulling the data, and it's just helping him make faster decisions. He's like, okay, this is where I want to move things. This is what I want to do. And it's incredible. So he's creating an environment for leaders to understand, okay, I got 80 down at 84% of deployability for my company, right? How do I get to that 90%? Oh, I have this platform where I can see. He has created an environment in the 2nd Mobile Brigade to prepare us jumping out of 2.0 to TIC 2.0. Now we're into an R-Struct. So he has created an environment of people having data in front of them, leaders being able to make fast-paced decisions. And he's a master at that. I think he's an incredible chess player. And then Colonel White, when I describe him, I think he was more relationships-based, right? Relationships-based leaders, I think they start and they just drive into culture, right? They jump into culture, and then culture drives behavior, which produces results. So relationship-based leadership goes directly into culture, drives behavior, and then produces results. He's got a way about just coming into a team, building it, and then being able to move them at a very fast pace through his own actions. But the way he just gets around people, the way he's just so interpersonal, that's just the way, he led, So he's just like, he really concentrated on the culture of, 2nd Brigade, and then what did it produce? Okay. Then it drives the behavior, produces the results. But how do you get both? Yeah. That's been the thing that is like, okay, how do I get both of that? And I think that's that 1 to 10% of leaders you come across of. Yeah. How do you, environment, do what the organization absolutely needs to do. How do you get that environment set, results, right? And then that relationships based. Okay, how do you inspire an organization? When you look at Winston Churchill and what he did, with London during World War II, before they go to jump against the Luftwaffe, it is like you have to have a real innate ability to provide courage, to inspire, and it's just such a beautiful aspect that I think, some leaders have. Yeah. And it's just really great. So the hard thing is, how do you do both?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you start saying, like, how do you do both? Like, we're talking about senior leaders at this point, like people that have been leading for a long time in their life. But like, if you rewind the tape a little bit and you say, like, how do I even go from a good leader? How do I become a leader in the first place? Yeah. There's a lot of people that are still beginning their career, beginning their leadership journey, and they're trying to figure out, how do I become a leader in the first place? You can't skip to, some of the places that these people are at. They've got years of education and experience and under their belt. Rewind the tape a little bit and let's talk about, like, what makes you even a good leader in the first place. How do I become a decent leader? How do I understand it? You dabbled on it a little bit when you said your why, your values, your virtues, your principles, and stuff like that. Like almost 10 years ago, 15 years ago, for some of these folks, how were they becoming good leaders to become great leaders?
They hit you with a General Pat Work mantra. Own your piece of the pie, right? You're 1/11. There's 11 players on offense. There's 11 players on defense, right? If you are at the lowest echelon leader in your organization, what is your piece of the pie, right? If I'm the quarterback on the team and my running back goes the opposite way, or my wide receiver, if the chains aren't moving right, it's when leaders start to become obsolete to their organization, right? If you really want to thrive at the lowest level, what is your job? What is your job? Best thing about working in the United States Army is that it is an indoctrinated organization. 7-22.7 republished the NCO guide in August of 2025, has these beautiful things in there. They are called the 6 NCO core competencies. We talked about them last time. Yeah. But the one thing, when I look at my job, like as a first sergeant, right? The first one on there, that I really lean on is really program management. When someone under the age of 18 is struggling with something or something happened inside of a home of a service member, that's when I'm driving into FAP. What is a family advocacy program? How does that support a commander's decision-making process? Then if you just rotate me 15 years back from then, it's the same thing, right? That team leader, whoever at the first line of defense, right? The Army tells you this is exactly what you're responsible for. Yeah. Start it. And then I think the Army does really good about that, gives you a framework. But then when you wake up, like, how do you define your commitment to your organization? Like, writing that down on a day-to-day basis. Am I processing 20 IPSA actions a day? Am I always there for formation? Did I help 3 people? Am I reading 20 pages every morning? It's like that directly affect my organization. But how do I do that? How do I specifically define my level of commitment to my organization and really owning my piece of the pie? If you're a team leader, be a team leader. If you're a squad leader, be a squad leader. If you're a commander, practice command authority underneath the Uniform Code of Military Justice with a moral and ethical compass, and just be a good human being. But what is your piece of the pie, and owning that?
Yeah, I think that something that has resonated with me, like later on in my life, has been how important it was at any moment 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, to just become the absolute best at whatever you're being asked to do at that moment. When you talked about like being an NCO, like I didn't have a family at that time. I didn't have Christy. I didn't have kids. All that mattered in my world was to be as absolutely the best I could possibly, the best ranger I could be at that moment. Right. And you weren't skipping forward. You weren't skipping forward to like leadership, strategic leadership. It was just, this is what I'm being asked to do. And if you become an expert, I think that pays off in the long run too, because now you know what was expected of you back then. Yeah. So now when you're in charge, now when you're the leader, you know what it felt like to be told to do those things. You knew how much time it was going to take to do those tasks. You knew all the little things that come with that task.
Yeah.
And it helps you make decisions, I think, when you become a little bit more senior, because you mastered what you were being asked to do at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you come to an OCONUS duty station. When I look at some of the lower leaders inside of the organizations, and when you start to see problems kind of rise up to your level, you really see the dynamic of, I don't want to call it a cultural shift or where society is at, but you see the dynamic problem set leaders have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
One thing that I've been trying to get a lot better at is really having a lot more empathy and trying to humble myself to what people are dealing with, because no, there's not 2 people on the planet that are going to deal with the same things the same. Well, when I was 19 years old and I was a private first class and went to Iraq for 15 months, 2 weeks out of basic training, I have to remember that's not really the crop of soldiers that I have in front of me right now. What I do have is a kid that's 19, between 25 years old. This is the first time he's been away from home, and he's living on an island, has no idea what to do. Like, what do I do with my life? Hey, I'm starting it, but he wants to be a little bit better.
Right.
He volunteered.
Regardless of how you're brought up, where you come from, or what environment, what decade you're growing up in. Yeah. There's 3 ways that leaders start to learn, right? At the beginning of whether it's a career in the Army or outside the Army, there's 3 ways that leaders start to learn. The first place they learn is they learn to use their hands. Right. And so if you think about that, how do I do the things that I'm being asked to do? If you're a private in the Army, they teach you how to use the weapon systems. They teach you how to use the equipment. They teach you we teach them how to use their hands. Right. The second thing we teach them, then they become an NCO. We teach them how to use their head. Right. So then it becomes, why are you doing these things? You go to NCO academies, you go to officer basic course, you go to these, like your second level of education. Why do we do these things? That's your head, right? Why do we do it? When do we do it? Where do we do it? right? Now I know how to use my hands. I know why I'm doing it and where. That's when you become an NCO. When you go to be a senior NCO, this is probably like first sergeants, your sergeant majors, your captains, your company commanders. Now you start to become a field grade. When you go into that next level, that's where you start to teach them how to use their heart.
Right.
And when you're talking about using empathy, that's once you become a first sergeant, you become a sergeant major, right?
Yeah.
Before that, use your head, use your hands. But now we're teaching these more senior people how to use your heart.
Yeah.
And when you know how to use that, now you know what to do, right? Great leaders know what to do at that precise moment.
Absolutely.
You've heard the things that then they say, I don't know, ask the first sergeant, he'll know what to do. Or ask the commander, like they'll know what to do.
Yeah.
But that's years of experience of using your hands and using your heads, knowing why we're doing it.
Yeah. No, when you look at, and I love the way you break that down, right? And it's like the hands, the heart, and the mind. I've taken that, put one in my kit bag a few times, sir. But yeah, I've definitely used it. But yeah, as you start to stay in long enough, you start to see that incredible evolution of leaders and how they evolve to their environment, to the people, to the organization. They understand the capabilities of themselves, their personnel, their equipment, and they really start to blossom into the senior leaders that the Army needs today.
And it's not always based off of how many years that you've been serving, how many years that you've been with the company.
Yeah.
Because you could jump right in and be with that organization for several weeks or a month, and you could identify quickly what the organization needs at this precise moment. And that's what's going to make a difference, right? I love to say, winning is knowing what's important now. What is it now? What do we need right now in order to move the organization forward?
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that you're just fixated on the present. You have a vision for the future. Therefore, you know what needs to happen right now. You're providing clarity, you're providing focus. But if we do this today, if we do this tomorrow, we will be heading in the right direction to get those results that we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move into, so now we talked a little bit about how to become a leader. In order to be a good leader, you got to be a good follower and you got to be a good teammate in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And so before we jump in and you're like, brand new privates trying to teach them how to be a leader, right? Brand new lieutenant, we're trying to teach you how to be a leader.
Yeah.
How do you be a good follower and a better teammate, to the folks that are around you? Because that's part of a leadership journey as well. What are your thoughts on that?
When you come into any organization, you see people moving and kind of, I didn't want to say struggling around you, but when you see an organization either thriving, it's like figuring out where you fit in, figuring out how you become a part of that process, I think is a really incredible thing. But there's not a day I don't come to work where I don't humble to myself, where I'm able to learn, get 1% better every day. And the Army, when you look at it like this, like the Army is not, it's not made up of people. It really is people. General Work said that when you start to look at us as a construct, and then what you do, I think the most effective way you can be a tool is weaponize the talent and the attributes of every single person around you. Yeah. What are the things you're pulling away from this one over here, this one over here? How many Colonel Leclercs do you know? What is the best thing that makes you? What is the thing that, where's that spark in you? And grabbing that spark and just kind of adding it to your toolkit, adding it to you. And then just the application of it, I think it's a really important thing that we do.
Yeah. I think that when you're young and you show up to a new organization, you show up to a team, you quickly need to look around at the people that are around you. Who are you surrounded by? Yeah. Are you surrounded by the right people? Are you picking out those people that are doing very well and trying to mimic them, trying to act like them? Yeah. Are you just simply surrounding yourself with the best people? Right. Because those people are going to rub off on you. Those are the people that you're going to be able to watch. You're going to learn something from. And when you're around them, you learn to ask better questions. When you're around those people, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of your time with. Who are you spending the most amount of your time with? and are you constantly trying to improve that team that you're around, spend more time with those people, or put yourself around a group of people that are doing the right things. If you hear your chain of command, you hear somebody saying, Don Castello is the guy that you want to be around. I'm going to spend more time with him.
Right.
We're doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend time with those people that you can learn from. That's how I think you start off by being a good follower, do what those people say, and have those people on my left and right on a daily basis. I think that's the beginning of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What's the next step? You want to, okay, now I'm learning how to become a good follower. I'm learning how to be a good teammate. I get it, Matt. Like, surround myself with some good people, but in a lot of cases, I don't get to choose the people that are around me. I didn't get to choose the people that are on my left and right all the time. I don't get to choose the people that I spend a ton of the time with, during the duty day, during that. But so what do I do next?
It's kind of like being a good parent. You don't get to choose your children. You don't wake up and like, oh, let me just choose what God gave me, what God put in my life. What you do try and do is attach yourself to it, put yourself at risk for it, and then help it rise to the occasion, to the life events that it goes through.
Yeah.
This is the big one that I wanted to talk to you about. It's called the Michelangelo effect. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard it, but I want you to say it again.
Okay, so the Michelangelo effect is a relationship that I think anyone, it's a relationship that you have with your marriage. It's a relationship that you have with an organization. It's a relationship that leaders have with their subordinates. So if you've ever, seen the statue of David and you've looked at a marble. So everything that we've talked about, it's like you're coming into a new organization. You have a slab of marble in front of you. Michelangelo was able to do something that no other sculptor was able to do. He was actually able to look inside the marble and see what the marble needed, what it needed for it to thrive, for it to become what his vision was, right? Because without a vision, people will perish. That's in Proverbs, right? So as he looks at this slab of marble, he has this ability to look inside of it and say, that's the spark, that's what it needs. And that's what the Michelangelo effect is. It is a way that you kind of look at a relationship and apply what you're truly best at to what the actual organization needs. There's 4 things that go around it. It's your ideal self. So vision that encompasses their goals, their values, and their desired traits. Any leader that you ever meet as they come into an organization, they got an idea. This is where, this is my vision. This is all the things that I think this organization needs. But those desired traits, anytime someone talks to a formation, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to take you. Okay, what do we get once we get there?
Right.
Real hard question, that you got to start to ask yourself. And then sculpting by partners, right? This is at the lower leaders. This is how you're looking around you. People's perceptions and behaviors help reveal and develop the individual's ideal self, right? So when I look at people and I see that car parked out there late because they just want to give a little bit more, I want people to see that from me. I want people to see me show up for them every single day. I want them to see that I have purpose, that I want this organization to thrive. And I know that's something they can get behind.
Yeah.
So it's through my actions on a day-to-day basis that I can inspire people. So now we're starting to sculpt David out. We're chipping away on the marble. And then the last thing, the marble helps others become the best version of themselves. When you wake up every day and you realize leadership comes at a cost, you putting yourself at risk for others so others can rise. That is why it's the anthropological definition of what it truly means to be a leader, is to step back, put yourself at risk for others so that they can rise, right?
Yeah.
So you became the chisel to the marble. I'll break off where we need to break off. I'll be that thing the hammer's beaten on so this organization can grow, can thrive, can be what it needs to be. But that's what the Michelangelo effect is. It's looking at the slab of marble, looking into an organization, and you being the chisel of exactly what that organization needs. If you're results-based and they don't need that, the environment's good, they have what they need to move forward, and you need to be more relationships-based, then do it. Jump into it. Grab the culture. If you don't have the ability to be, to do that, then pull people around you that are.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's the key that you just said right there at the end was the people that you pull around you to kind of fill in the gaps when you're not able to see it, right?
Yeah.
You can't just expect like a new leader to show up to the organization and to know all those things because they come in with their bias, right?
Yeah.
They come in with a list of things that they already know that they're good at. I know what my strengths, I know what my weaknesses are, right? I'm going to bring these things to the organization. Then you show up and you realize the organization doesn't need that strength. The organization needs something different. You realize that, right? Or sometimes we have what's called, your blind spots. You don't even realize where the organization needs you the most or needs. So by surrounding yourself with people that will help you with that.
Yeah.
When you talk about that, the Michelangelo effect, you say help people become a better version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have been hearing these things for years.
Yeah.
But they don't. But they're like, if they were being honest, they would say, "But I don't know how to do that."
Yeah.
Like you just bring the best out of everybody.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Right.
How do I bring the best out of people? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I think what it is when you start to study the people that have been the best leaders that have been successful, right?
Yeah.
It's in sports, it's your John Woodens, right? In business, it's anything by Jim Collins, right? They've done a ton of study. You don't need to do your own studies. These people have done it and they've identified some of those things, right? Jim Collins always says, like, what's a level 5 leader, right?
Yeah.
And he lays it out. You don't need to do the research. He did it. He's already done it. What is he saying makes a level 5 leader, right? It's that person that has two things, this unbelievable personal humility at this point, right? And an unbelievable professional will to get those results, right? Their managers, the level 4, the level 3, they're really good at getting things done, but it's what separates those people.
Yeah.
And then another favorite of mine is the captain's class, right? There's a book on it, there's a podcast on it with right, tons of it. But the three things I wanted to pull from that is like, it's this leader's unbelievable emotional control, right? They don't fly off the handle at moments when things get stressed. They are not too low at the wrong times. They're not too high at the wrong times. This unbelievable emotional control at the toughest moments. They get out of the way when it's easy, times are easy. They realize that they don't need to be around at that time, right? Their ability to communicate at the precise moments where it needs to be communicated. And then there's his third thing that I pulled from it is this nonverbal motivation, the ability to motivate and inspire some people. Not through a motivational speech, not through a big, something that you wrote down, but it's nonverbal. It's sometimes it's your actions, sometimes it's just you being there at that right moment. It tells everybody this is important. That's why you were there. You showed up because you knew it was important for you to kind of be there at that moment. Those are a couple things that come to my mind when we talk about, going from being a follower and a teammate to starting to become one of those leaders that everybody wants to follow.
Yeah. I think in the captain's class, Andy Reid does such a great job. That's how they kind of lay the foundation as it's coming out. But he's able to make a dynamic decision right there. Everyone's got a 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Every day you show up to work, everyone's got a 4th and 1. Did the kids not get to school on time? I'm missing a soldier right now. I got all these things going on in my life. Everyone's got a 4th and 1. hey, we got to move an entire motor pool. We have 2 battalions that are doing squad live fires. Did we trick the ammo from last week? Every single person you come back with has got a 4th and 1. Leaders being able to make fast-paced, dynamic decisions effectively and efficiently, right, is all about this thing we call trust. Mission command is the way it is, and we operate as an army today because of that one thing, like trust. If I could give anybody something you can just go back to your organization to say, how do I do all those things? What you started off with, how do I get better at that? I hear all these things all the time. A positive feedback loop. Every single person you come in and you encounter with are going to be good at one thing. One thing. And if they're not good at one thing, find it for them.
Help them find it.
Help them find it, right? What is that one thing anyone, is singly good at?
Yeah.
The organization will thrive based off the sweat of their backs, not yours, right?
Yeah. That's like the common, someone's a good runner, so everybody in that organization has to become a good runner. Or somebody's really strong, that team leader or that squad leader, they're really strong, so then everybody has to be strong.
Yeah.
But when you find what makes that person tick, what is that person's strength?
What's that spark?
Now you got the team, because now the team's got the strong person, the fast person, the smart person, the team builder. That's all in there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So now we get into, I want to go into that next level of leadership, right? Where you figured out what it takes to try to be just be a leader in the first place.
Yeah.
What does it take to kind of be, a follower and a teammate? Now, what does it take to kind of be that leader of leaders, right? You're starting to, you got junior leaders all around you that are starting to find their groove, and how do you kind of put them all in the right place at the right time, doing the right things at the right moment? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you start thinking about some of that next level leaders and what they do?
When you encounter them, do you want to be them? Right? When you walk, I have been around some really phenomenal human beings working in this organization. But when, the times get tough sometimes, and you're faced with really hard decisions, whether it's moral or ethical, and then you start to see leaders struggle with some of those decisions sometimes, it's like, just didn't get there. Mm-hmm. But then you get this, love being in Hawaii because you get to see all these rainbows. I don't know if that's what it is, or the 25th Infantry Division or all of Indo-PACOM just creates them. But when you get to see a really strong, dynamic leader, even when he's pushed up against a wall, hold on to his values, and say, gosh, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to emulate. That is the one thing that I absolutely, to the best of my ability, try every single day to do, is just, one, be someone that my kids will be proud of one day. I don't care what anyone else thinks about me. When I'm gone, what will my kids think about me? How did I do that? The thing that I cared about the absolute most, how did I do there? And then being a girl dad, I just think it makes you a little bit better, gives you a little something.
When you said the leader that you want to be like, right?
Yeah.
And you see them, and it's hard to put your finger on like when they made that decision, right? Sometimes it's like we all know what the right decision to do here is, but the harder decision is to do the right thing, right? And you're like, okay, we could easily choose the decision that's going to get us the best results, but the harder decision is the one that follows your values. It's the one, right? That makes me think about I don't always know exactly where I'm going to go in life, or where I'm going to end up, but I know exactly how I'm going to get there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know how I'm going to spend my time. I know how I'm going to approach the day. I know how I'm going to go about making this decision. And it's not always just going to be about the results and it be about accomplishment of this precise mission, because there's something bigger that's out there. And I think that's when people see that in you, that they want to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when when you humble yourself to a group of people and they see you vulnerable, they see you struggle, they see you fail at certain things, but they see you stick to what you believe in, what inspires you, what motivates you to be there in that first place. When people see you step over those 3-foot walls, because you stand in front of formations and people every day, and you're just like, hey, do these things well with these things that I'm giving you. But then you get into small things, like perfect example is like a rating scheme. I'll have some senior NCOs come in there, hey, I want to change this, I want to do this around. I was just like, hey, this rating scheme has been approved by a battalion commander and a 2-star billet and below. It's already been approved on the monthly reports. We will not reshift this. That is not ethical, right? Yeah. You have a senior rater and you have a rater. We are not in the business of chasing these things, right? So I'm very flat when it comes to those things. But it's like small things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? How often do you stick to your guns? Where do you allow room at?
Yeah. I think as you get a little bit older and you start to find these more senior positions, right? Some of the things that mattered 10, 15 years ago, they matter less at this point, right? And the things that didn't matter as much when you were growing up, when you were younger, are becoming more important. Right? And those things, when you're earlier in your career, you don't get to choose the people that are around you. You don't get to pick the people that go into those leadership positions.
It's true.
When you become a senior leader, you absolutely do now.
Yeah.
You get to pick the people that go into those positions. You get to pick your first sergeants. You get to pick who's going to be your commanders. You get to pick the field grades that are around you. Right? You get to recruit those people to come be a part of your team.
Yeah, phenomenal people.
You absolutely get to surround yourself by phenomenal people.
You do. Yeah.
Right? And I think that if you're not getting those people don't want to be a part of your team. We call those an indicator.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can surround yourself and pick those right people, that's what senior leaders are being expected to do.
Yeah.
Right. You should, when you see young folks in your profession, whatever profession it might be, if you've been doing it for a while, you can almost instantly tell who's gonna be one of those. Who's got that little bit of the ick factor in them. We call that the potential, right?
Yeah.
You don't need weeks and weeks and weeks and tons of of opportunity to know that person's got what we're looking for,
right?
Because you've been doing it for so long, right?
Yeah.
In any profession, right? And you want to see that potential, you want to feed that potential, invest in that, and then surround yourself with those people. Yeah. We've heard this one. Everybody's heard this one. Like, nobody cares until they know how much you care, right? And you have to care about people. Like, we can see through it a mile away. Yeah. Especially when you become a senior leader.
Absolutely.
You can see through it. You can see it coming from a mile away when they care, when they don't care. And that didn't matter when you were younger as much. It didn't matter. Yeah. It matters, I think, exponentially. The more senior you become and the further up you get to go, how much you care about the people that are around you matters exponentially.
It's such a heavy cross to bear sometimes. Once you start to take command, once you start battalion command, you're a brigade commander, you're a division commander, there's a real expectation that people have on you is like, oh, this guy, he knows it all. He's a graduate from the war college, He'll
know what to do.
He'll know what to do. He has all these things, Really, when we're just all just trying to figure it out, But if you have that one thing about you, if you can care just a little bit, I tell the guys that all the time. Yeah. Hey, how do I be great? Just care. Yeah. What do you mean? Just care.
Sergeant Major Weimer, I just saw a video of him doing an interview, and he had talked about, like, that's the X factor is how much you care. Yeah. Because you can be really good at your job, you can be really good at getting results, but if you don't care, he was saying it's like multiplying by zero. Yeah. Anything multiplied by zero is zero, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter how good you are at getting results, about how technical you are. Yeah. If you don't care, it's a zero. But if you can make that care a 1 or a 2 or a 3, and now we can get after the fact that you actually know what you're doing a little bit, exponentially increases the effects.
Absolutely. And I think more than ever, you just need that human trait on it more now than ever. When you look at Indo-Pacific, it's such a big maritime and then, the air. But even with all the domains that encompass from where we are, there is a human aspect to what we're doing, like JPMRCX, all our exercises. They're just so important. If you don't have people at every single level that care, right, it can have strategic effects on a theater army. So just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So like if I'm a team leader interacting with a Filipino sergeant and I walk away, or, if you don't care, right? If you didn't wake up and you didn't care about that relationship, what we're doing, if you don't care about soldiers, there is a human dimension that is missing on leadership, and it's not there anymore. So you will get that zero every single time.
Yeah, and that's at the senior level, because we've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of times younger, growing up, like I didn't join the Army to make friends, or I joined the Army to accomplish a mission. They expect me to accomplish my mission. Right out there. That is true at the younger levels. But as you become more senior, like you absolutely are being expected to maintain relationships and to maintain, friendship, to be able to do those things at the more senior level.
Go back 10 years, right? When you did your, first 2 deployments or something. I remember the face of every single person in the first platoon I went to Iraq with in 2008 and 2009. Every single face. The environment has changed, but I've never forgotten a face. Yeah. In a peacetime, you struggle that, a little bit. But then when you're over there doing the real thing, that level of care, man, that platoon sergeant, everyone around you, the amount of care that they have for you, not just your human life, but every single decision that you make, it's just elevated times 1,000, times 1,000.
Yeah. And I think that what we're talking about is the culture of any organization right now, right? Yeah. It's that feeling that you get when you're inside of an organization. Yeah. You can feel it when you show up. They care about each other. Right. They will get good results. They do care about accomplishing the mission. They are hyper competitive. They do want to win every competition that they're in, but they also do it the right way. Right. They're winning, but they're winning the right way about going about it. Yeah. We've also seen the other side of those organizations. The ones that do always win. The ones that do get good results, but they don't care about the people. As soon as you don't get a result anymore, you're gone.
What's the cost?
And so that that lasts for a little while. Yeah. People want to be a part of that, but then that becomes the culture of that organization.
Yeah, that care aspect into your culture. Look at the best organizations in the entire world. Look at the absolute best. SEAL Team 6, the best college football team in the world. That culture that you establish, you define, you create, right? It's invested into the care of its people and just pushing them up to the absolute highest level and their highest potential. Then you have those teams that, hey, we did real well for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that really well that time,
That
you
right
can
culture
see the
attracts,
difference.
It's like a magnet. It attracts the right people. It attracts people that want to be a part of it. Yeah. If people are begging to be a part of your organization, then you're creating that culture. You take a look at that. If you want, look at the people. Are people asking to be a part of your team, or are people asking to leave your team? Yeah. One of those two is going to tell you whether or not you're going in the right direction with your culture. Yeah. I want to start to go into the, our so what bucket, right? Yeah. And so you start to go into this, how do I lead? How do I become a leader? What makes them a good follower, right? Then we talked about like a little bit more strategic leadership, a little bit more of the more senior, but if I want to be one of those leaders, if I'm out there and I'm on the cusp of it, I'm starting to kind of go into that category of leadership. Okay. Yeah. What are some of the rules that you like to follow, as you leave this organization and you go to your next one? What are those rules that you're going to implement, for yourself as a senior leader?
Looking at the whole organization as a whole, now that I have a little bit more time, I can actually look inside of a company. Doing it for 44 months, you start to see, where you didn't do things so good, where you need help at. So I want to be able to understand 2 levels above me. What does What is the highest expectations of my organizations? Then I want to be able to sit down in front of whoever I'm working with, and I will tell them, what do you need from me to be a good leader in this organization? So if I'm talking to a rater or senior rater, what do you need from me to be a good leader in this organization? Then once they answer, I'm going to ask them, now, what do you need for me to be a great leader in your organization? Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. This is what I'm looking at.
Yeah. One of the ways you get after people's heart is by doing things that they need help with.
Oh yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's doing it without being asked to do it. You just recognized what that unit needed, and you went after it and you did it, Yeah. But by asking those questions and helping them figure out, what can I do to help this team the most? That's part of Sam Walker in the captain's class. That's what all those captains did. Right? They weren't always the best player on the team. They weren't always the person that scored the most amount of points, but they were the person that knew what that team needed the most at that moment, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The three things I always take with me as I move from one organization to the next, or I move from one team to the next, and I start to think about what my rules are. My rules are, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Right. At this level, you cannot do it alone. Right. You can't go in and say, these are my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'm going to bring it, take it or leave it. This is what you're getting. Right. Every organization has certain things that it needs in order to thrive. Right. You can't figure that out alone. You can't fix it alone. You can't make it prosper on your own.
Yeah.
And so you have to surround yourself with phenomenal people. That's the first thing you got to do.
Yeah.
I think when you show up. The second is clarity is king. And a lot of folks have heard me say this, but clarity is king. What needs to be done? How are you going to communicate that with people? Because everybody's learning and taking in information different ways.
Yeah.
Some people are written, some people are verbal.
Yeah.
Some people need to hear you say it over and over and over. And after the 10th time, they're like, okay, maybe he really means it. I've heard him say that with your presence.
Yeah.
Your ability to communicate it. Clarity is king. It needs to be clear to everybody in the organization what we're driving towards. What's that North Star? What were the things that you need to get done today in order to kind of win? And then the third is every organization has to be able to execute.
Yeah.
You can care about people all day, and you can surround yourself with a bunch of good people. But boy, if you don't execute, if you don't get results at the end of the day, like it almost all becomes for naught, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere. You said at the beginning, you said relationships, but then you said results based, right? You have to have this fanatical discipline.
Yeah.
Every single day, you have to have systems that get you towards results.
Yeah.
You've got to be getting a little bit better every day, but you've got to have routines, systems, and habits.
Yeah.
That organization, people in our organization do things like this.
Right.
And it will create that culture. It'll create that system, right? Because otherwise you'll look around and you've got great people, but we're getting by on energy.
Yeah.
And it's just great people pouring themselves into the organization. When that energy runs out, because people will get tired, but systems never do. Yeah. And so when people start to get tired, the system will carry the day. Yeah,
the clarity piece. I was listening to something that really talks about how leaders are able to kind of step back and have some moments of solitude. So 28% of time spent by the 40 greatest CEOs in the United States of America right now, 28% of their time on their calendar right now is spent alone. Absolutely, entirely alone. If you're a leader in an organization and you don't create time to create, plan, and assess where your organization is going, who's going to do that for you? That clarity piece, where do you find it? Is it your 5 a.m. morning cup of coffee? Is it your journal? Is it your Maxwell daily leader?
Yeah.
Is
it a long run?
Is it a long run? Where are you finding the time for the clarity to plan, assess, create? Who's doing that for you? When do you have time to do that? Is it operationalized? Do you have it written down somewhere? No matter what, I will do this, right? That clarity piece, I think, is something that I've gotten so much better at, that I've refused to not give that time up. I black it out and I'm like, this is what the organization needs. This is how I apply myself as a leader to it. This is how I can support my commander so they're not constantly in quicksand. It doesn't matter how effective you are as a leader in any organization you serve in. If you are constantly adding all these rocks to your rucksack, if you're a brigade XO, if you're a brigade operations officer that can never do the things that you need to do because you're dealing with all these small monotonous things. People aren't owning their piece of the pie. People aren't coming to work. They're not caring. You're cold, all those things are happening to you. You just jumped into quicksand. Yeah. And you're just gonna fall apart. But if you step back, look out the window. What's everybody need? It's powerful. It is.
Yeah. I want to get into I want to wrap things up here with this quick hitter, right? We talked about what's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
We talked about all those things, but now what's the last thing that comes to mind when you talk about great leadership? Right?
Yeah.
What's the last thing that comes to your mind that in some cases probably should be the first?
Yeah.
Right? What is the last thing now that kind of comes to your mind that from what makes great leaders great?
Leaders aren't born. They're chosen. You wake up every morning, you go look in the bathroom and you're like, yeah, I'm a leader in this organization. It's like saying you're good looking, That's not for you to say. That's not for any of us to say. It is for the people around us to say. That everything that you want to see in the most incredible people around you, like all those sparks, all those attributes, all those beautiful things, all these great human capacity that people are able to do, right? How do you pull that away from people? And that's when you start to see organizations say, man, that guy right there, that's a leader. Hey, where do you work? I'm in the 196. Yeah. You know my brigade commander? You know who the COG is? That's when you start to hear
that's
that.
Our leader.
Yeah.
When they say that.
That's the most incredible thing that I think if you just kind of take that idea, put it inside your heart and let it just work your hands, let it work your mind. Be careful to what you are exposing yourself to, be very cognizant of the people you're around, be around phenomenal people on a daily basis, but knowing that you're chosen, like you're chosen.
I want you to have the last word, and I might have that might have been it right there.
Yeah.
But I want you to kind of have the last word. But the last thing that comes to my mind, as I've thought through this process of, all these years of growing up as a leader, growing up, reading about it, studying about it, it's that it's similar to what's happening right now with artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
We're now starting to get to the point where information is at our fingertips.
Yeah.
How to solve problems is at our fingertips. Anybody can figure it. I just changed a part in my daughter's car by watching Google.
Yeah.
I bought the $60 part. I watched a video on Google and YouTube, and I changed the part, right? The information is out there. And so the ability to solve problems, the ability to fix a problem, the ability to do that is becoming less important.
Yeah.
Because it's already out there.
Yeah.
Right? The thing that I think is going to continue to separate good leaders from the greatest leaders is knowing what problems to solve in the first place.
Yeah.
Knowing what needs to happen. Right?
Yeah.
Whether you're applying an algorithm or you're putting people towards a problem or towards a challenge or towards an opportunity, the leader is the person, the greatest leaders are the ones that know that's the direction we need to go and apply those resources and put those people towards it. Put the equipment, the new fancy equipment, the new algorithm, put AI towards it. It will solve the problem for us. But the greatest leaders are the ones that are going to know what problems need to be solved.
Absolutely. Oh, that's good, sir. So I wrote you I wrote you a pretty good quote to close this one out. It says, "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to become a leader, but he becomes one by the equality of his actions and the integrity of his intent." General MacArthur. It is... when I listen to that, I just thought it is what an awesome responsibility we have as leaders to watch others around us rise through our actions. Life is what we deem it, right? That is like the most, Marcus Aurelius said, probably the most 8 important words in philosophy. Putting yourself at risk for others so they can rise, the risk part. 10% of your life is going to be the things that happen to you. That's 10%. 90% is going to be how you interpret it and how you react to it. And when you're a leader in an organization, everyone is going to see that. How do you react to that? What did he do? Did he act with integrity? Did he have good intent? Does he genuinely care about me? He doesn't care. He doesn't care about a metric or nothing like that. I care about the people. And when you're able to know the army it is people. It's not made up of people. That's your greatest commodity. It's you just see kind of ripple effects. Like, okay, I want to get on that train. I want to go work for that. So put yourself at risk for others so that they can rise. And when you do that, I tell you, you will start to see the culture in your organization shape and change and do phenomenal things and change the way they go about every day. And I guarantee it, they're going to love coming to work. And so will you. Yeah.
Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate you doing this with me today. And for those that are listening right now that are sticking with us, the true believers that are here, if you haven't listened to Don's episode where he tells his whole story, how he grew up in the Army, go back and listen to that episode. It's one of the most popular episodes that we've done. And he talks about growing up in the Army, how he became the leader that he is today. You get a ton of nuggets that are kind of out there. So thanks for doing this with me today, brother.
Absolutely, sir. I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Thanks for listening today. I hope we sparked some thoughts about the people that have inspired you to be who you are today. I hope you share some of your thoughts and better yet, demonstrate them for the people in your life. Our pursuit is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories stacked on top of each other, building like compound interest. Keep stacking these positive habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Please share your comments at the links in the show notes and DM us at Teach Me to Fish podcast on Instagram or Facebook. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.